Bienvenue, welcome to Reporters Plus here on France 24. I'm Mark Owen. In this edition, surviving Boko Haram. The Islamist terror movement has caused death and destruction across northern Nigeria for the past 2 decades. The kidnap of 276 schoolgirls from Chibok in 2014 made the headlines worldwide. But there have been many attacks that have killed and altered lives forever. And even though the government of Nigeria has declared last year that it had beaten Boko Haram, there have been more incidents recently that suggest this is not the case. The atmosphere in and around the towns of northeast Borno state is as tense as ever. Lives are still being taken by the terrorists. This report's by Moïse Gomez, Pierre-Olivier François and Yann Olivier.
This is Bama in northeastern Nigeria. It's still scarred by the fierce fighting that took place in September 2014, when the town and its 250,000 inhabitants fell into the hands of Boko Haram. For 7 months, Bama was the heart of the Islamist sect's caliphate, until the army regained control. Since then, members of Boko Haram have been hiding in the immense scrubland that still strikes fear into people here, the Sambisa forest. The military has turned Bama into a super camp, a town of checkpoints and roadblocks. Inside the city, where 85% of the buildings were burned down or damaged, life goes on. The market has been rebuilt and the Shehu's palace has been restored. The Shehu, a traditional religious leader, returned to Bama less than a year ago, after 6 years in exile in the regional capital, Maiduguri.
Most of the people were staying in Maiduguri because even if they come back before, they don't have a place to stay. But now that their houses has been rebuilt, so they have started coming back. We are very much grateful for that.
With the help of EU funds, the NGO Mercy Corps has rebuilt hundreds of houses. And after 4 years in a refugee camp, 50-year-old Falmata Bukar has finally found a home.
Mercy Corps built this room for me, though I don't even have any bedding for it. But with my children, we manage the best we can.
Before the fall of Bama, Falmata was a successful businesswoman, selling fabric and perfume all over the region. At the time, some of her neighbours thought the job was unsuitable and that the role of a married woman was to stay at home. She was denounced to Boko Haram, and they put a price on her head.
I continued working, but one day I saw them kill people right in front of me. I decided to give up my job. I realized that one day it would be my turn.
When the city fell to Boko Haram in 2014, her house was burned to the ground and her husband killed whilst trying to escape. 2 of his brothers were also killed. Today, Falmata is looking after 8 children, 5 of her own and her 3 orphaned nephews. While things look calm, the former businesswoman, who was once so proud of her independence, says it's hard starting from scratch.
When we first came back, we were scared, but now we're used to this neighborhood. It's heartbreaking because I have nothing to do, although recently I got a job sweeping the streets.
Despite government incentives, not everyone is prepared to return to the city. 2 million people have been displaced in Borno state during the 10-year war with Boko Haram. That's almost half of the population. Bakassi camp, 70 kilometers from Bama, is home to 30,000 people. Fatima Michael, a 26-year-old single mother, has been living there for 5 years.
I remember my life before, in Bama. I was happy when I think about it. The father of my children and all his brothers were still alive. We all lived happily under the same roof.
Like Falmata, Fatima also lost her husband and her brothers-in-law during the siege of Bama. As the insurgents retreated, they kidnapped her youngest son, Husseini, who was just 2 years old. To save him from life as a child soldier, Fatima followed the kidnappers back to their hiding place.
They kidnapped my child. They took my son away. At the time, I was 8 months pregnant with another baby. But I couldn't sit back and let them take my son. I couldn't go on without him. That's why I decided to follow them to the Sambisa forest.
Today, Fatima runs a small convenience store in Bakassi, selling sweets, toothbrushes and drinks. A comfortable life compared to the 15 months she spent in the Sambisa forest, where she gave birth alone. Without proper health care, her baby only survived a few months. With little say in the matter, she agreed to marry a Boko Haram commander, with whom she had a son.
Some of the women died of hunger. Some died of cholera. I thought, the only way to save my child is to marry one of these men. Other women had done so, and they got their children back. On top of that, I was hungry and lonely. I forced myself to marry one of them.
When her Boko Haram husband was killed, Fatima took the opportunity to escape with her children and another captive. Fatima found herself in the hands of Boko Haram in 2014, the same year that hundreds of high school girls from Chibok were kidnapped, making headlines across the world. Boko Haram means Western education is a sin. Its leader, Abubakar Shekau, pushed the Islamist sect towards ultra-violence in the wake of the assassination of its founder. In 2015, he pledged allegiance to Daesh. But even since the army regained control in Bama, Boko Haram remains well established in the northeast because local frustrations are strong. Borno State is poor, electorally insignificant, and historically disregarded. Despite 10 years of fierce repression by the Nigerian military, experts say they've killed more civilians than Boko Haram, the insurgency remains strong. The army controls cities, transforming them into so-called super camps. Boko Haram has stepped up its attacks on military bases and regularly holds farmers to ransom. In Bakassi camp, Boko Haram incursions are an ongoing threat.
My people working here, they are checking the vehicles and the people coming into the camp. If I see you coming, I will detect you, you are a stranger. And also, if you are a criminal, I will detect you. I will know you are a DH. It's our job to fish out the bad eggs in the society.
Buba Saleh China is part of the Civilian Joint Task Force, a militia supporting the army in the fight against Boko Haram. He's served as a military operations guide and rescued civilians from the Sambisa forest.
It is only now things are better. The DH, sometimes last year, they tried to enter the camp. They came with a bomb. We controlled them not to enter. They blast at the people at the gate.
Buba also keeps an eye on the young people in the camp. He's well aware that extreme poverty and the feeling of exclusion are reasons behind Boko Haram's success in Borno.
In a family, their boys join the BH group simply because of poverty or because of money. Some of them will be forced by the BH to join them. If you cannot join them, they will kill you. If we catch him, the military will go and have them for rehabilitate them and brush out that activities they put in their head so that they will come to join their family as normal.
Fatima feels safe in Bakassi. Her shop gives her financial independence. Her children go to the camp school. And she's surrounded by women who've been through similar traumas.
We're together now. Some were welcomed back by their families. Others were rejected. Some haven't even seen their families yet. When I see all this, I feel like my own problems are not that bad compared to theirs. It gives me the will to stay and make new friends in the camp.
After fleeing Boko Haram, Fatima spent a month in a de-radicalization program to make sure she wasn't a terrorist. When she was allowed to return to her family, her brothers and sisters disowned her, calling her a Boko Haram wife.
I don't think I could ever go home. Maybe it would be possible for me, but not for my child. They would never want to see him. They're always disgusted when they look at him. They see him as a Boko Haram child. When he's naughty, they say it's because he's a Boko Haram child.
Hello. Ba gajiya ya kake? Lafiyan su kalau. Lafiyan shi kalau yana bacci ma. Borno zai je insha Allah ya can yana wasa.
Fatima mainly speaks to her son by phone. He's 6 now. To stop him from being bullied in the camp, she sent him to live with his grandmother. In Borno, the insurgency has torn families apart. It's not uncommon to have one brother joining Boko Haram and another in a self-defense militia. Falmata, the former shopkeeper from Bama, has other priorities. Her problem is making ends meet and feeding the 8 children in her care. Luckily today, she's got a bucket of wheat from a neighbouring refugee camp.
My main challenge is a lack of business. If I was into any business, I would help the kids, and even other people would benefit from me. Sometimes we go to bed on an empty stomach. When the children sell the caps they make, we use the money to buy food. Sometimes we trade a hat with someone just to get something to eat.
After school, Falmata's children, like many here, make Borno caps. Making one can take a month, and they sell for up to 50 euros, a small fortune. Precious income which pays the older children's tuition fees. Falmata knows education is vital if her children are to have a brighter future. And it also feels like revenge on Boko Haram. One unexpected effect of the insurgency is that it's given schools in Borno renewed legitimacy. This school, where Awana, one of Falmata's sons, is a pupil, has recently been renovated. Today, the new headmistress, whose watchword is discipline, is hosting a football match with a twist. The boys and the girls are playing together.
Where are the girls?
It's the girls' team versus the boys. Here, all children are equal. But teaching such values in Borno is an act of bravery.
Before, I was scared. If they catch somebody who is a teacher, civil servant, they will just cut the heads. They will slaughter the person. They will shoot the person. But now, I'm not scared because almost all the place, we are surrounded with soldiers. And Boko Haram cannot be able to come into the town.
Awana is playing in goal.
Boko Haram say that the Western education is haram and prohibited. You should not take your children to. They all discourage the rural people and the urban people, those who are illiterate. You know, they have never been to school. They don't know what is good and what is bad. But due to the insurgency, they all stayed there as internally displaced persons in Maiduguri. And almost all were getting enrollment in school. Almost every day. So the Western education is very, very important now.
The girls' team won. But while defending their right to an education, the headmistress is careful not to forget the boys.
I want them to do any kind of activities, both boys and girls, because if you show the girls love more than the boys will not even come to the school. We don't have to abandon boys.
What the headmistress fears is that neglecting the boys will turn them into easy targets for Boko Haram recruiters. Although for now, Falmata's son has other ambitions.
I like studying. I think it will be very useful in the future when we develop our local government.
But for this to be possible, the region needs political stability, and his mother needs to find work. Sometimes Falmata returns to the fabric market. It's here that she used to buy her supplies.
Now that I have a house, I would really like to have a shop of my own to get back into business like before.
But she knows as long as there's not peace in the region, this is wishful thinking. For now, she's limited to jobs with few prospects, like cleaning the streets of Bama. Fatima can no longer imagine a life anywhere else beyond the temporary camp. Today, she's meeting up with family who live on the other side of Maiduguri. She's begun rebuilding her relationship with her father.
Recently, I started taking care of my father because he's sick. At first, he was really scared. He said, "Darling, I was told you ate human flesh, that Boko Haram are cannibals. Did they make you do this? They say Boko Haram killed people too. Don't do bad things." That's what my father told me. But despite all of this, he never rejected me. And now he wants me near. He loves having me by his side.
But with her brothers and sisters, relations are still strained.
Insurgents are not good people. When they took her away, we became afraid of her. We didn't know what she learned from them or how they influenced her. And that's why we were scared.
If the Bakassi camp was to close, as the government hopes, Fatima would have nowhere to go.
Sometimes I think about going back to Sambisa forest. I think about it when I see how people look at me with contempt. Me and my child. The child I had in Sambisa. Because what happened continues to happen today. They call him a Boko Haram son, and me a Boko Haram wife. But when I really think about it, I realize it's impossible. I can't, and I do not want to go back to Sambisa. If we were accepted by society with open arms, if we were seriously de-radicalized, if we were educated against radical extremism, both men and women, it would be different. Because men were forced to take up arms, and almost all women had to join Boko Haram against their will. Even when they returned, society still refused to accept them. So there is no way peace could easily return. If society welcomed us and showed us that they understand the pain experienced in our situation, then one day it would all be a thing of the past.
After 11 years of insurgency and terrorism, a new plight is threatening the people of Borno. Famine. According to the United Nations, more than 5 million people are at risk of starvation, the highest number in 4 years. Drought, as well as farmers' fear of returning to the fields, are fueling the crisis. Around Bama, many farmers refuse to work without military escorts. Last November, near Bakassi, 76 workers harvesting rice were killed by Boko Haram. It was the deadliest massacre of 2020. 70-year-old Mala Ali was there.
They told us that up until now, they had been coming and going without harming anyone. But since they had been attacked, they were going to take revenge on us.
His 2 sons were killed. The insurgents let him live so he could recount the massacre. The message to the military was that the insurrection is far from over. The message to civilians: no mercy for collaborating with the government. Like many farmers, Mala Ali is a devout Muslim. Since the attack, he and his wife have found comfort in prayer.
I believe the government and the insurgents should open up a dialogue to bring this to an end and build a lasting peace. It's the only way, because killing your way to peace is no solution.
Since the attack, neither he nor his neighbours have dared return to the fields.
And of course, we will continue to report on the situation in the north of Nigeria. That's it for this edition. See it again on our website, france24.com. This is Reporters Plus. Stay with us. Most of all, please stay safe.